Welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast. Today we are joined by Michael Jackness with ecomcrew.com. He is joining us to tell us a story about a brand he purchased at the end of 2020 and just recently sold a month or two ago. This brand was something that he grew quite a bit over those 2.5 years. And one of the primary drivers of that growth was that he started an entire SEO portion to the business. Now, when he bought it, it was 100% on Amazon, so what we like to call an FBA business. Did not have an SEO component. I think it didn't even have a website, or if it did, it just had a landing page. And so Mike walks us through the entire process that he went through to turn that into a viable traffic source and revenue source for this large-scale FBA business. In the end, when he sold that brand just a couple months ago, 20% of the business was coming from the Shopify store that they started. So he walks through the entire strategic approach they took, starting with how they outlined what needed to get done. He gives a great framework for how to evaluate that, the keyword research they did, and a component that I don't think many of you are using in your keyword research, and then how they created the content that was necessary to get this kind of traffic. It was not an approach where they produced a ton of articles. They really sharpshooted the different articles that they were creating and went into depth in terms of the quality of the content. So we get into all those things that they did to produce this really high quality content. We do finish off by talking about backlink strategies and then the role of AI, not only as it related to this project, but going forward. Mike's a wealth of knowledge, and as you can tell, not only is my voice a little raspy, I'm a little bit under the weather, but so was Mike. So I thought we did a pretty good job overall getting through what amounts to a really valuable episode here on the podcast. I hope you enjoy.
Before we jump into the podcast, I wanted to let you know that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
This campaign got us big links in websites such as Lifehacker, Wales Online, Daily Record, and about 20 other news websites. Let me show you how we've done it. We knew that people will be flying a lot this summer, and we knew that journalists will be writing about this topic a lot. So, on behalf of our client, we put together a nice guide about how to fall asleep on the plane. Then we use Muckrack to find journalists who write about travel. Then we put our advice in a nice email and send the tips to the journalists. Within just a few days, the links started landing, securing our client natural placements in really big websites, just like this, and this. This is a great example about how you can leverage seasonal trends to earn links to a website. Anticipate what journalists want to write about at all times and give them the stories that they need. They will reward you with some great, juicy links. I hope this is helpful.
If you want similar link building PR campaigns for your website, head to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them now.
All right, welcome back to the Niche Pursuits podcast. My name is Jared Bauman, and today we are joined by Michael Jackness. Mike, welcome on board.
Good to be here. I'm breaking one of the cardinal rules of podcasting, which is not to have gum or candy in your mouth, but I've been sick, so I have a cough drop in there, so you'll be hearing some rattling of hard things off my teeth throughout the episode, unfortunately.
It's okay, I was nervous about today because I'm a little under the weather myself. My regular listeners will probably hear that my voice is a little deeper than normal. I do like that, by the way, because I typically have a high-pitched voice. But
it's quite sexy.
Yeah, hey, I always joke that this is the time of year that I should re-record my cell phone voice message because I sound so much better right now than on an average day. But yeah, so we might have a little cough here or there, but you and I will make it through just fine. So thanks for joining, even though you're a little under the weather.
Absolutely.
Hey, so we've got a fun story in store for us, and you have a long background in building businesses. But before we get into today's agenda and the story we're going to talk about, can you catch us up on who you are? Just give us a little backstory on Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing my own thing since 2004, so I'm coming up on 20 years, which is crazy. All of a sudden, I'm starting to feel really old. When I got started, I was always the youngest kid in the room, whether that was at my corporate job before this or even in business. And all of a sudden now I'm the one giving all the advice or being the elder statesman. So, that career started in SEO, right? I mean, and it's really been SEO all the way through. It's just been sending the traffic to different things or doing it in a little bit different ways. And so at first it was purely affiliate marketing, and now it's mostly for e-commerce, although we do have an information site at Ecom Crew. We have our own podcast talking about e-commerce and blog, very similar to what you guys do, going after obviously different terms, but we do SEO there. That kind of brings people into a funnel, and then whatever you want to sell them at that point, you have traffic equals sales, right? And so it's been a traffic equals sales game for going on 20 years.
SEO has changed a lot, obviously, in 20 years. I mean, 20 years ago, God, I'd be hard pressed to even call it SEO compared to what it is today.
Yeah.
I think that's a testament to your longevity is kind of staying in that. What were some of your? I mean, we're going to be talking about a project that you took on in 2020 and then beyond that. What were the types of things you were working on prior to that? You mentioned e-commerce. Has it always been e-commerce?
No, I mean, like I said, before to begin with, it was purely just affiliate marketing, and so to begin with. The reason I quit my job is I started some affiliate sites in the online poker space back in 2004. Right place, right time. When poker was exploding, I was really into playing poker. I was going up to Atlantic City all the time, and the rest is kind of history. And so that from 2004 to right around 2011, I was 100% all in on online poker, and then took a year or two off. I really just didn't want to be in that space anymore. My wife and I bought an RV, and we RV'd around the country for a while. And then we got into quote unquote more legitimate affiliate stuff. Like, as I always just felt like online poker was, I don't know, whenever we talked to anybody serious in business, like a bank, let's just say, they always kind of gave us the stink eye. We had to tiptoe around it. And so we got into doing other affiliate stuff and WordPress themes and online degrees and graphic design, and treadmills. We own treadmill.com. And then I remember being out on a hike one day and thinking to myself, like, this affiliate model, the way that we're doing this, it doesn't really add any value to the world. It was kind of like that, what are the best treadmills of 2023 kind of thing. And you come there and the number one treadmill was the one that paid you the most affiliate commission. This is pretty prevalent on the internet. And, I just really was thinking to myself, A, this doesn't add any value to the world. And B, I think that Google's going to want to do something about this at some point. And maybe let's try to be ahead of the curve for once. And so we decided to just start selling physical products. We own treadmill.com. Was like, let's just start contacting manufacturers of these treadmills. We'll learn how to launch an online store. And we chose BigCommerce at the time and just figured it out. And that was how it all got started. And next thing you know, we were selling fitness equipment. So since then, which was 13. Sorry, wrong decade. 2013, 2014, early 2014. So going on 10 years now for e-commerce. The primary SEO focus has been sending traffic to an e-commerce site and trying to convert that into physical product sales.
Well, I'm really excited to talk about today's story that we have. I mean, given your backstory in both affiliate marketing and e-commerce, I think that's going to show itself quite a bit in the story today. I mean, like maybe give us an overview of this project when you took it on. I have down December 2020, so obviously kind of middle of the first year of COVID. We've had a lot of people on actually who have success stories out of the back of 2020 and the year that it was, but you kind of took on this project towards the end of 2020. What did it look like when you grabbed onto it?
Yeah, I mean, we bought basically a 100% Amazon business. It had a website, and it was just kind of there for a token presence, just to have the brand name. If somebody typed it in, brandname.com, it would be there. There were some sales on there, but it was sub 1% of the business. And when we took the business over, we bought it as an investment, which is why I thought it would be a cool story to talk about today. And it's also the most recent thing. I always kind of hear is Amazon dead? Is SEO dead? Is affiliate marketing dead? Like all these things. It's like, it's the end. It's been the end for 20 years since I started. And so I thought that would be a good story for this, but I'll share some other sites and other projects we've had in the past that have had the same thing. But we bought this site as an investment. It was myself, Andrew Udarian, Bill D'Alessandro. Andrew's from ECommerce Fuel. It's a community that I'm in, and Bill D'Alessandro has Element Brands. And we've been friends for a long time, and we were just chit-chatting about over the years about doing something together one day, and it just kind of happened. And so I was the one that operated it. And so on day one, I'm sitting down, I'm like, okay, what can we do to drive the most results in the shortest amount of time? So when we go to sell this thing in about 3 years, it's worth as much of an increase as possible. And so SEO was one of those things I was kind of on the fence about, because like it does take time. But I thought with a 3-year timeline, I could move the needle enough to make it worth our while. And it sure worked out that way. It worked out well. So, I mean, we went from 100% of our sales being on Amazon to 80% of our sales being on Amazon, 20% being through Shopify, almost entirely through organic traffic. And that really started kicking in about the 14 to 16 month mark. We really started seeing that like hockey stick growth. And one of the things that makes me sad about selling the business is going to continue on that growth trajectory. And but I mean, we sold it for a good price, and we're happy that we sold it, et cetera. So I mean, it's not all bad, but yeah, certainly one of the things I think that the buyer got the best deal on is just the trajectory of the SEO.
So bought this in 2020, at the end of 2020, just sold it a month or two ago, it sounds like.
Yeah, on June 2nd. We're recording shortly after that. So yeah, it's still fresh.
Good. Congratulations. That's
Thank
a big
you.
deal,
Yeah.
I'm just curious. I mean, you had some partners. Why the 3-year time horizon?
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of what we agreed to, right? It was, we're going to buy this thing. It was also an ECF Capital was one of the investors, and it was just what we put down, and the original idea was I would run it for 1 year, and then we would hire like an interim CEO to kind of finish the plan, and the rest of that story is kind of long, but we decided to sell it after 1 year because we had so much gain after the first year. Basically, we had already met our 3-year target that quickly. But it kept on falling apart, like the most crazy stories. And so it worked out well for us that we ended up keeping it, because I mean, it did quite well.
Yeah. Maybe take us back into buying this Amazon brand. We talk a lot in the podcast here and there about buying websites, but I don't think we've had someone on in quite a while that bought a brand on Amazon. Now, is this kind of an FBA type brand, or are we looking at that from the right angle? And what does that look like? Because I know there's a lot of aggregators out there that buy FBA sites, FBA brands. And where did this kind of play in? What attracted you about this specific one?
Yeah, and in fact, I mean, we had offers from multiple aggregators in the sale process, so they're still out there and still buying. There were a few things that attracted us to this particular business. First of all, we knew the seller, like personally knew the seller. She's a good friend of ours. That means a lot in this world, because there's a lot of like really unscrupulous people. And so we knew that what she was saying was the truth, and we knew the business all along, because like we had been talking to her about it throughout the years, and we knew what it was. But the things that really appealed to me about it was, first of all, we had a warehouse in North Carolina, so a physical presence with just a few employees. But we did some very light manufacturing and assembly, which really kind of built a moat around this business. Like almost everything, it seems like on Amazon these days is just like Alibaba, AliExpress, or direct from China right into Amazon. Very little differentiation, very little moat. The gap is closing quickly, and so we didn't want to be into something like that. But even though these products primarily did come from China, the light assembly part, the ability to have the warehouse really meant a lot to us. Also, there was no hero SKU. Like the entire business was built off of like just hitting bunts, like not even singles. It was just like dink, dink. The hero product was like 6% of the business. You're always going to have some hero product, right? It's got to, just by definition. But for my other businesses, like it can be 40, 50, 60%, right, like one SKU, right, of the whole brand. This was 6%, and then the next one's like 4, then 3, and like quickly it's just like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So you end up with a lot of SKUs. It's a little bit more work, but I've always said like the opportunities and the complexity in whatever the business is. The simpler it is, the easier it is to do, the more everyone can do it. You don't want to be competing against somebody in Asia or the Middle East that is in a very low rent, low cost of living district or geography or whatever. economy, and against somebody in the first world, because we were at a huge disadvantage. So we just we wanted to have something that kind of could separate us from that, and that person could import a lot of the other products that we sell and sell them, but these products were just going to be slightly more difficult, and that was one of the other things that appealed to us. The other thing was we could change our sourcing, which we did. We were buying everything domestically. We did change sourcing to China and lowered our costs. And also, I thought that the SEO component was going to be huge. I did some preliminary research before buying the business, and I'm like, oh my God, like this just happens to be one of those unicorn niches where no one's optimizing in it, and it's hard to find those in 2020 at the time. Now 2023, same thing. Like it's still really the only site out there really optimizing for these terms. And so when you have the perfect storm of like the ability to write the best content, informative, helpful content, because the products and you're selling the products, now you have something you can build a business around. And so we did. I mean, 20% is a big number when you're talking about a multi-million-dollar business that, by the way, the Amazon component grew during that time significantly. So, it was a multi-million-dollar business that grew to be a larger multi-million-dollar business. And so the the Shopify component was very substantial and more profitable, by the way, than the Amazon part.
Right. And I was going to bring that up. We had somebody on the podcast a month or two ago that went the other direction. They had a website, almost like your treadmill story. They had a website that was getting traffic, and then they decided to go after their own products. And then for them, the Amazon side of their business, the FBA side, grew substantially, but the profit margins were always higher on direct sales from their website.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
I mean, maybe juxtapose for people listening, and maybe you did both, but when you get this FBA brand, focusing on SEO versus focusing on growing the FBA side of things, like how do you balance which one to tackle, or do you recommend to people that they actually tackle both simultaneously?
Yeah, I mean, this is like one of these like impossible to answer questions without knowing all the details. I mean, I'll specifically talk about what I did, because I think that's something people can start with. I was kind of talking about being the older guy in the room lately. With that, the only thing that's good about that is experience. Like everything else sucks. Like, I mean, I get out of bed, everything hurts. I can't drink as much as I used to, or eat as badly as I used to, or any of these types of things. But I've seen things happen that on repeat that are important. Which, number one of those lessons is you can't do everything, right? I mean, like when I was younger, I would just try to go do everything without really thinking about it, and I had the energy to be successful in spite of myself. And I could, keep the wheels on the bus somehow in spite of all that. But over time, I've realized that that isn't a good way to run a business, right? And so one of the things that really helped me with that was the book Traction, which I'm a super huge fan of. I recommend anybody listening to this, even if you are a solopreneur, to read that book, because there's a lot of really good concepts in there. One of which is to have a plan. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs just kind of go into things like I was saying. I mean, good, better, and different, just running into the fire, or they have a plan and just change it on a whim because they went to a conference and heard some new tactic and just change everything all the time. So, our plan was 3 years, right? I mean, we knew we had a timeline, which makes things easier in a lot of ways. It's like, you think about a lot of the other things you do in life, you don't really know when the end's going to be. Like, do I want to sell this thing in 5 or 10 years? Or you think you want to keep it for 10 years, but then, 4 years in, you're like, man, like, I've had enough of this crap.
Right.
So it's having a definitive finish line really helped. And 3 years sounds like a really long time until you start to break things down. And 3 years is 12 quarters. And we think about everything in quarters. And I'll kind of get into that here shortly. That's a part of Traction as well. And so you got 12 time periods to work in to get all these things done in. And so when you start thinking in terms of that, now you start to realize, like, holy crap, like I can only get so much done, right? Like you start to break things down. It's like, I want to do 100 things, but 100 things can't fit into these 12 time periods. Maybe I can get 30 of those things done in these 12 time periods. And by the way, part of that time period is like, I got to hire people and train people and like learn this business. Like that had to be part of the first two time periods, right? I mean, like I knew nothing about this business the day that I walked in there. So I had to learn all the SKUs and all the people and all the processes and everything, and then hire a team. We hired a total of 7 people within the first 6 months to really take on all the things that we wanted to get done. And so, yeah, then we laid out the things that I wanted to get done. And there was things that I wanted to do that we just couldn't do because they weren't a part of the plan. But what we settled on was we're going to change our sourcing, improve our supply chain, and lower our COGS. We're going to start launching a product a week because I thought there was an opportunity for SKU expansion. And so we got to that. We couldn't do that immediately. We had to kind of ramp up to that point, and we did it, which is a hell of an accomplishment in my opinion. I mean, like, high quality listings, one every week. But we had those 7 people to help us with that. And then the other big thing was we're going to do the SEO thing. I'm going to go back to my roots. I know this. I'm going to make a big bet on it. And we did. And so on day 1, we hired a writer and just started, because I knew it would take time, right? And when we're going back to having our board meetings, it was like, well, why are we spending money or doing this thing versus it's like just hold on, give it a few months, we'll see what happens. And like I said, I mean, it took 12, 14, 16 months before we really started seeing the needle move. But I started seeing traffic in the first 6 months, and sales started materializing within the first 6 months because it was, low competition, low hanging fruit type stuff. And so if I was in a different niche, let's say it was a supplements business, I wouldn't even bother with it, right? There's no chance that we were going to crack that quickly in the time frame that we had with the budget that we had. But it just happened to be, I felt like for this niche and these products, we had a really good opportunity, and we did, and it worked out very well.
Okay, I want to get into all the details about how you grew in SEO, because basically you started from scratch with a brand new website for this brand.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you said it had a landing page, but that's about all.
I think it was a domain rank 7 or 8 or something when we started. I mean, it was, and that was only because I had been sitting there for such a long time that once or twice a year somebody would link to it for some reason. I mean, who knows why? But I mean, it had no authority.
Let's I like to ask guests this a lot just to give people context. And so anything you can or are comfortable sharing, let's just talk for 30 seconds about the end compared to where you started in terms, again, if you want to talk about the total revenue at sale or increase, or even just maybe from an SEO standpoint, where you took the website and in terms of traffic or revenue. I just like people to hear the scope of what you accomplished in those 2.5, 3 years, and then we can start unpacking all the SEO techniques.
Yeah, I mean, the increase, like I said, we ended up about 20% of the business was the Shopify store. So let's just say, if we sold for $5 million, $1 million of it, enterprise value was what we did with that. So it was pretty significant. And, in terms of increase from where we started, I mean, we did quite well. And that was a large part of our increase, right? So, I mean, it was an extremely significant, very important part of the deal. The other thing is it raised the multiple, right? So there's another component of not only did it represent a significant dollar value, but now you have a business that's more diversified, and you can see this growth trajectory of the SEO, way more defensible, huge moat of a business on the Shopify side than playing in the Amazon playground. And so we're a lot of Amazon business, pure FBA businesses are trading at 2.5 to 3x. We were selling at a much closer to 4x multiple. And that is also really significant, right? So it's not always just how much dollars did this thing generate, but it made it a much more solid business, which was really important.
Well, that's a good point. That's a really good point. So you actually raised kind of like a rising tide raises all ships. You
Correct.
raised the value of the Amazon portion of the business because of the SEO component you created. Yeah.
And it has other impacts as well, because when you're sourcing these, it was a home hardware business. So it's lots of little, think knobs on a kitchen drawer kind of thing, or the hardware, the door hinge type of thing, hardware. And, so these are small components that you're ordering by the pound or the kilogram in this case, not by the piece, which was kind of a new experience for me. And so having more sales is important to like reach these MOQs for all of these products to really drive down costs. So like it was like this ecosystem that like really started to feed on itself, where it was just like, we're getting better sales, we're raising our enterprise value because of our multiple, we're driving our COGS down, we're making our supply chain more efficient and driving our logistics costs down. It's just everything kind of like really worked together. We're bringing in other customers that with these new items that we're launching that then buy other items in the catalog because they're now finding us through search from this one item first, but we have these other items. It just, all of it really worked together very well.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Okay, good. Wow. Okay, let's get into the SEO side. I could ask a lot of questions about that, but
sure.
I think a lot of people are going to want to hear how you did this. Let's take it from the start. Tell us about, as detailed or as high level as you want to go. Like,
sure.
What process did you go through in building out traffic?
Yeah, I mean, so again, I'm very much into this whole like plan thing. I know it sounds funny, but basically I'm bashing on myself because like as a young entrepreneur, especially as a solopreneur, you wake up every morning, you just pick what you want to do and just go do it. And I was very much like a pinball in a pinball machine, just bouncing all over the place. Very rarely did I do anything in a straight line. And I think that's probably one of my biggest strengths these days is just kind of operating to that plan. And so you're taking the time up front to think things through, especially when you're going to have a team and you got to like give them the marching orders. That's where it started. So we're an Ahrefs shop. I mean, there's also SEMrush and other tools out there. I think they all do relatively the same job. Just happens to be that I've had a Ahrefs account for like 9 years now or whatever the hell it's been. So That's what I've just stuck with. And I'm not a big fan of switching tools all the time. So keyword research, right? At first, you're just going through, thinking through every possible thing, kind of doing keyword mapping or brain mapping of just mind map the hell out of this. It was like, our keyword list in Ahrefs, we made all these lists. We're thousands of keywords, right? It's like we were going to come up with a list of stuff that is but we're not going to do this work ever again. Right? We're going to do this work right now, and this is what we're going to do for the next 3 years. Like we're going to write these articles in this order, and basically it was, just a formula of search volume, keyword difficulty, and then another score of buyer intent, right? I mean, traffic can be ego or it can be sales, right? I can go get tons of traffic. I can go rank for something that just brings in tons of people. They read the article and leave. They're never going to buy anything. That doesn't have any value. We're not doing display ads on this site, right? We're trying to sell them stuff.
Right.
So, we don't sell screwdrivers. Like, what's the best screwdriver? It doesn't make any sense. We wanted to rank for things that, we're directly in the buyer's path or very close to it. And so we would kind of put a multiple, of a score for that. And then we just started at the top, just like what term gets a decent amount of search traffic, that has low keyword difficulty, that has decent buyer intent. Let's go. And we just started writing. And then, of course, as you start writing, you start to make silos, you start to interlink things, you start to earn backlinks. We also wrote articles to earn backlinks. And like I said, about 6 months in, all of a sudden it was like, oh, look, how to hang a heavy mirror is ranking all of a sudden, or whatever, whatever the thing was. And like, holy crap, they're buying the hardware to do that from that article. And that just gave us even more motivation to just continue to do this. In fact, we hired a second writer at that point and doubled down. Because I was a little bit worried to begin with. You just never know. Like, is this stuff actually going to sell? Was kind of like, I knew I can get the traffic, but I was like, are people going to come to these pages and actually buy? And so, when we hired the second writer and we hired a graphics person, so it was like a 3-person team, 2 writers and a graphics person, because we wanted to start adding original, graphic content in the articles. It just adds more authority and stuff and we went back and added some additional stuff. And we did all this in the Philippines, so we did it at a low cost. And, they would shoot the stuff. We partnered with a gallery there. We'd like go buy them lunch and give them a few bucks. And they were thrilled to have us come in there and take some pictures and use their space to create original photography for both our products and for our articles. And I mean, I wish I could show, because I think this is this audio only, or can we share screen? I can show video or I'll share you a screenshot you can throw in the show notes just to show you the graph from Ahrefs. It's really cool just to see the of the traffic, and it's also cool to see how they convert it into sales. And by the way, I mean, I had the confidence to do this because we had done it a couple of times before. Like Color It, the other business I can talk about that I sold back in 2009, was a similar thing. I mean, it was primarily an Amazon business, but we ranked for like what are the best colored pencils, or what are the benefits of coloring, and how to blend in shade, or whatever. All these different things that people were searching for, they were finding us on Color It. And that really helped build our business. We ranked for like free coloring pages or downloadable coloring pages, just on and on and on. And that business I can talk about because I was already talking about it. It was kind of the thing, like with Color It, I started from scratch. It was mine 100%, or actually I had a part, my cousin owned a minority share. But we talked about the whole thing from day one. When we did this other business, like part of the agreement was like the guys knew that I had Ecom Crew, and I'm talking about my business life like all the time. And they're like, this isn't really fair to us or the other investors. You can talk about it, but you just can't mention the name, right? So we that was the agreement from day one. And I feel like it would be unfair, like now that we sold it, because like the guy, bought it under those pretenses, to just all of a sudden be like blurting out the name because like it's not a risk to us anymore. That doesn't seem fair for someone who just gave us millions of dollars. So, I've kept that way. But I mean, the premise is exactly the same, whether it's how to blend and shade with coloring pencils, or how to hang a heavy mirror, or whatever things you can think of in the home hardware space, applied to coloring, applied to treadmills back in the day, applies to our other brand, Ice Reps. We rank for like, how to ice an ankle or whatever. It's all this stuff works in certain niches. Again, you don't want to, it's the same thing as Amazon. I don't want to sell supplements on Amazon. Can you make a ton of money doing that? Yes. I know people that are multi-millionaires now from selling supplements, but they're very stressed, right? And it's a lot of black hat competition. Same thing with Google. I mean, like if you want to rank for like what are the best supplements, you got to be doing a bunch of black hat stuff to get there, right? You got to be buying backlinks or doing link farms or running dozens of sites all in the same space to you got to just invest tons of money and energy into doing that, where this stuff was just like child's play. I'd rather be in the child's play corner where no one's really looking, because to anybody else that doesn't own this type of business, it's not probably worth it for them.
Right.
That's the key, right? And so if you don't have the home hardware business, the money's probably not there to do it as just a pure affiliate deal where you're just sending the traffic off to Amazon, because there's just not enough traffic, but there was for us.
Hey, just a quick break. I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Just a quick reminder that today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Now, I've got a short clip from Ferry with Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
This is how we landed massive links for our client in The Sun, a DR90 website, and many other UK news websites. We have used freely available data from YouGov to simply find out what the nation's favorite car brand is and which brands people love the most. Of course, Rolls-Royce came out on top, Aston Martin second, and Jaguar third. We put these insights in a short email and sent it to journalists that write about cars and to national news desks on behalf of our client. Within a few days, our client got featured in all the Suns, as well as many regional newspaper sites in the UK, gaining DR90 links to their leasing comparison website. YouGov website is full of unlimited PR stories with data already available for free. All you have to do is to start researching their data and start asking the data questions. You will be surprised of the unlimited PR campaigns that you will find there that can help you build massive exposure and links to your or your clients' websites. I hope this video is helpful and inspirational.
Like what you just heard and are looking for similar link building PR campaigns for your website? Just go to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them today.
I want to ask a couple detailed questions about your keyword and content strategy. And in the e-com space, there's opportunity to go after so many different types of keywords. And I'm just curious how you prioritize them, if you went after all of them. So, at the risk of going too deep on this, let me kind of expand a bit. Obviously, you can go after some of the more informational plays, how to hang a heavy mirror, how to make sure that you have the right equipment to hang the heavy mirror, all those kind of things. And the interesting thing is, if you're making an affiliate play, you don't tend to make much money on that because it's more of an informational query, right? But as somebody who owns the e-commerce products themselves, that's very interesting. Then there's the e-com SKU itself. I've got to imagine like people searching for that. Maybe they don't want to buy it on Amazon. And then there's also, we'll call it like roundups and buying guides that are more akin to affiliate marketers. And maybe it's the best, heavyweight hanging apparatus. I don't even know what the right word to use it, but it's like a roundup, and some of your products are on there. I'm just so curious for you, which ones worked best, if you decided to target only certain ones or there's an order to it. Like, I just want to unpack that a little bit more to learn.
Yeah, I mean, like the how-to or best always seems to do the best, right? But you can have, I'll use, we always use like fishing rods as an example for this. I don't know why this always comes up for us. It's like the garlic press, but we use fishing rods. So where are the best places to go salmon fishing? That's a best thing, right? What are the best hotels in Crater Lake or on the Kenai River or whatever? Let's say the Kenai River is where you want to go salmon fishing. Like, all these are so top of funnel that it's going to be hard to sell somebody a fishing rod or a reel or hooks. Right. But like, what is the best tackle to use while fishing on the Kenai River? Holy crap. Like, if you're selling fishing tackle, that's a very targeted search that someone's probably looking like they're about to get on the plane and they need their tackle. Mm-hmm. And so we would start there, right? It's like, how they hang a heavy mirror is a really good example. You're not typing that in because you're thinking about hanging a heavy mirror. You've bought this heavy mirror.
Right.
And you've now realized, like, I got this 60-pound mirror and this thing's heavy as hell. And I don't think that these like little tiny hooks that I have in my drawer are going to hold it. And so I got a problem. I need to solve it right now. Those are the best articles to rank for. Now, oftentimes, depending on how competitive the niche is, you can't just write that article and rank for it. You have to write all the supporting articles around it that you can then interlink to it, write a content silo for that. And so we would look at that. It's like, okay, well, this thing's the keyword difficulty is 3. Like, we probably can just write this article and rank. Or this keyword difficulty is like 35. We're probably going to need to write a few supporting articles that aren't directly going to give us benefit, but will indirectly give us benefit by becoming, in Google's eyes, a content expert in this space. And so that was kind of our approach. We would look at what is, again, I put that from day one. It was kind of a 3-column sheet of like the keyword, 4 columns, the keyword difficulty, the search volume, and then I would assign it a score of 1 to 10 of intent, and we would just kind of like multiply all that. And so somebody could have low keyword difficulty, high traffic, low intent, and not really be a great opportunity. You could have low keyword difficulty, relatively low traffic, but intense buyer intent. That would become worth a lot of money to us. I mean, 300 people landing on your site a month from an article that has like a 90% chance of converting somebody is better than having an article that gets you 10,000 visitors with like a 1% chance of converting somebody, or 0.5%, which is not uncommon. And there's not really an opportunity to, our value to getting people on our email list for this brand and other things. It's like, it's a one-time purchase in the moment. You don't remodel your house that often. You're not going to sit there and email market to them. Versus color it, where like, okay, we can be at the very, very top of the funnel. Like, what are the benefits of coloring? Like, they're not even sure they want to do it, but we get them on our email list, and they're worth money to us. So like, you have to think about all these little things as you're kind of putting your plan together. And so for us, it was like, unless it's low keyword difficulty, decent search volume, high buyer intent, it's not worth anything to us. But we had hundreds of articles to write over the years that fit that model, and that, for the most part, again, there were some exceptions where we had to go out a little bit further to actually get that article to rank. We would write other supporting content, or in some cases, you're trying to write content that will get people to link to you. Right? That's oftentimes a different type of article, or almost always a different type of article. And so there were cases where we sat down and said, okay, every 6 months we're going to write an article that's going to like attract, the people that have other blogs that are going to want to link to us, and Rising Tide raise our domain authority for this site.
I love that you talked about the intent column in your spreadsheet. So many of us get keywords, we look at search volume, we look at a difficulty score, and then from that move on and start writing. But I love that you added a fourth column of intent. I think a lot of people can get value out of that, even if they're not in the e-com space, even if they're in a different type of website building. Let me ask you about, you mentioned a bit, so I wanted to dive into it, like the level you were going to get and source unique images. You had somebody full-time that was focused on, I don't want to say images, but like making the content better. Like what were you doing to make your content better, really good? I mean, it sounds like you were on great lengths just to get some images for the content.
Yeah, I mean, this just goes so far into everything that we did, right? It was like, if it's an e-commerce store, just if you're trying to sell somebody something, it isn't the hardware store where you can like walk up and ask the guy in the aisle at Lowe's a question, right? I mean, you only have the images to convey your product, right? And so you, like every Amazon listing, every product listing on our site gets 6 images or something, and that's and you can write stuff too, but nobody reads. We know that people either don't know how to read or they just don't read. So the images are super important. The images, the quality of the images, they can either convey that like you're a kid in your mom's basement running an e-commerce site, or you're a Fortune 500 company, with super polished, high-end looking imagery. And the thing that's funny is that both are about the same amount of effort. You're taking the picture either way, right? So we just would find someone who was really good at what they did, pay them slightly more, than the other guy because they were better, and that would be our girl in this case because they were all women. And then you can take that further. It's like, well, we want to do this with our content as well. Nobody wants, like, the internet is not a novel, right? You're not reading a Stephen King book on the internet. You're reading an article on the internet. It has a look and feel and spacing and cadence that's really unique, that never existed up until the internet came along. And that's continued to evolve. And, that's evolved along with everything else that the internet has done, which is shorten attention spans, right? People, again, they just don't read. They skim. People skim. And so you have to put your articles in a format that is conducive to that, right? Lots of headlines that are bold, short paragraphs, image, diagram, heading, short thing, image, diagram, whatever, table, just visually make the thing look interesting and pull people down the page. It's, one of the things that Google looks at, I believe, all this is speculative because they never actually tell us, but time on site certainly, and how far, dwell time, are they going down the page? Add a video into the thing, get them to really stick there for a bit, go down the page even more, whatever it might be. You gotta make it visually interesting, and pictures are a big part of that. And then we would put our logo in the picture. A lot of times that would get the thing that would get the backlink,
right?
Or it would show up in Google Images when people were looking there. And so I think that all the little details are important. I love to tell this story of the Kentucky Derby. The horse that wins, let's say, gets $1 million. The horse that finishes in second gets, let's say, $500,000. It does not mean that the horse in second ran half as fast. It probably ran a fraction of a second slower, ahead, a half a length, 1 length, whatever. It was like that extra last tiny bit of effort that makes that horse a winner. It's that extra last bit of effort that makes your blog stand out, makes you get the link, makes you get the click, makes you get the traffic, makes you answer the person's freaking question and not click back and then go to the next site, which I think is probably one of the biggest indicators to Google. I believe this for a very long time. It's like you type in how to hang a heavy mirror, you go to the first result, you read the page, it doesn't answer your question, you click back, you go to the second result. This is like a normal path for all of us Google users, whatever the search is. You go to the first thing, click on it. That sucked, you go back. That just wasted my time. I go to the second thing, that sucked. Still don't have my answer. Go and you stop when you get your answer.
Right.
If you're constantly that site, Google has to know that, and they're going to push your result up. And if you have a newer page, a lot of times they'll artificially put you up at the top. And if you have a higher signal once you're there for that spur of the moment, then you'll get there quicker. You'll stay there quicker. And so these things are really important to us, especially as a low domain authority site. And so we had really, really good time on site stats, low bounce rates, and we always had a mantra to our content team, besides telling them the Kentucky Derby story, which I love to tell. It's like we need to write literally, that word literally gets used a lot. So quite literally, the best article that's ever been written about this ever. If we can't meet that standard, then don't start. It's like there's some articles out there that are so good it's gonna be hard to beat them. But we got to go into more detail. We got to show more imagery. We got to maybe add a video. We got to really get in depth. We got to have some tips and tricks or things that the other article doesn't quite answer. And so as a part of our research of actually writing the article, we would look at the top 3-5 results and making sure that we could actually legitimately do a better job than they do, like not just go start writing the article. And so there's quite a bit to it. And again, I'll share the screenshot with you. It's been a fun journey because the traffic has just done nothing but continue to go up.
You mentioned backlinks and your strategy of writing content to generate backlinks. Was that effective? Were there other backlink strategies? How much did you end up growing the backlink profile, the domain authority, whatever metric we want to toss around there? How significant do you think that ended up being in your SEO growth, and you're adding so much sales from SEO?
Yeah, backlinks obviously are important. I was just looking, cheating here on the other tab. We got the site up to a domain rank of 17. So it wasn't nothing tremendous. We have ECommerce, I think, is a 70. So certainly we've got properties that have a much higher authority. But the thing is, again, we were only writing maybe one article every 6 months to try to attract backlinks, because the keyword difficulty score on almost everything we were writing was sub 25. So it just was never a high priority. But yes, we did work on getting backlinks. We would write, industry guides. You can do something like, what are the best kitchen remodeling blogs or something, and then you can do like an awards thing where you go out and be like, hey, look, we ranked you #1 for your best kitchen. So we would do these standard kind of SEO gimmick type posts. So it's not like anything like we're Ecom Crew, like there we have to go way further. That's a really competitive, same thing with like niche pursuits, like super competitive. You got to like go create original case studies. You guys are like the gold standard for this. Like you guys crush this stuff. Like you go out and buy or start a site and like do income reports for years on it. And you're creating stuff that everyone wants to link to. And, we do something similar. Like we're, in totally different spaces. We're like focused just on e-commerce. And so like we'll do something like, the Amazon buyer intent guide. And we just did this post on this, or a big study where we surveyed thousands of people and put out all this original content. It's necessary there to go spend 5 figures to go commission a study, and same thing like you guys are doing. You're probably spending close to 6 figures by the time you're all done by the time you buy the site and write all the content and everything, and it generates all these backlinks as you're an authority in that space. Not necessary here, right? You can't apply the same methods for every single thing you do. You got to be kind of malleable and be like, okay, for this project, emails are super important for us. We're going to try to collect email addresses, as I was mentioning for color. That was super important. Well, for here, not important. For this project, holy crap, I'm trying to target keywords that have a 50, 60 keyword difficulty. I'm going to have to go out and create a bunch of original content and work on getting backlinks and partners and sell my soul to the devil to work on getting backlinks, because that's the only way I'm ever going to rank for this stuff. Over here, it's well, I can softball this. We never softball anything, but in terms of having to get backlinks and put all that additional work into it, it's completely unnecessary. And so, for each project, we kind of approach it in that way. And for this one, it just happened to be, and it's why I made that bet. Again, if the the circumstances were different, I wouldn't have done the SEO for this project because of the timeline and that 12 period thing I was kind of mentioning. So, it's all a little bit different, but that was kind of the approach. And so for here we did very little, not zero, but very little effort on the backlink side.
Wow. I mean, DR is not everything. So, and we know this, everybody listening knows this, but a DR 17 that was helping you generate, I think you said, a lot of money, is a testament to what you said, like good research, good content, going after a niche that not ultra competitive. And I'm blown away. Well done. Well done. So like maybe if you could talk to us about that growth trajectory, because it sounds like it did take a while for it to really actually start having an impact. I mean, you had to have a good time horizon with, I have written down, you said 16 months is where you really started. That's almost a year and a half that you were, how much content were you publishing? How hard were you working on the SEO side of things before you started kind of seeing, we'll call it pretty measurable results?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the Ahrefs graph right now. I'll just throw out the numbers. So we bought the business December 30th, 2020. So 0 traffic. I'm looking at that. By May of 21, and this is just the Ahrefs graph of organic traffic, we're at 1,600. So let's go 6 more months would be December here. We're at 8,000. 6 more months, June, 13,000. Following December, 16,000. And the most recent reading here is 19, just under 19,000. Just had another, I don't know if this last Google update seemed to be very kind to this site. In terms of keywords we're ranking for, 3,000 at the beginning, 6,000, 10,000, then 14,000, now 22,000. So that's kind of the trajectory over, what is that? It's not quite 3 years. It's 2.5 years.
I'd say, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so it's been great. And I'm sorry, I forgot the other part of the question.
Oh no, I was just curious how much content you were publishing.
Oh, how much content? Thank you.
Yeah, from a high level.
Yeah. So to start with, it was 2, maybe 3 articles a month. And we basically have doubled that. So it's 4 to 6, maybe 8. Sometimes we can get up there. The writers are also writing our emails. We do send out some emails. It's basically, the email list is not the same way that we did color. We launched these new products, or here's some tips about how to hang a heavy mirror or something like that, because there's industry people. But we always want to do some email marketing. They're also writing our product descriptions.
Okay.
And so they have other things to do. But yeah, I mean, they're posting 3-4 articles each a month, and we have 2 writers.
Wow. Well, I mean,
and just real quick, I mean, it probably
please.
sounds like a small amount compared to a lot of. Keep in mind, as I said, we're trying to write the best article ever written about that topic. So this needs time for research, time to get those photos done, to map out the article this is all before writing the first word, to do the keyword research, what it is. Then we also do looking at other articles that we've already written or are going to write, and making sure that we include the types of content in there. We can interlink to those and go back and do the interlinking from the other articles, because it's a Shopify store, so we can't use your guys' awesome plugin to just one click and get it all done. So that all happens first, and then they go write the content. So it does take them a considerable amount of time to write. I mean, I've seen people that are my content writer writes 2 articles a day. Yeah, but it's crappy content. Of course they're writing 2 articles a day. So yes, it does take time, and they put a lot of effort. Sometimes we'll sit down and be we are going to write an article that we're only going to do 1 article this month. And we're going to write a big, massive, there's been a couple of those where, we're going to go a little bit nuts on this particular article and put lots of time and energy into writing an 8,000 word article for this particular thing, because that's what I think it's necessary to rank. And so, we don't focus on the quantity. We are focused on quality on everything that we write. And I'd rather write significantly fewer articles and have them be amazing than just meet the goal of we got to get an article out there.
I'm glad you kind of doubled down on that, because when someone hears the idea of creating content, it means so many different things. You know,
Yep.
like you said, like there's plenty of people. I mean, going all the way to the other side, there's people who are cranking out 100 articles a day with AI. There's people who are taking their time and producing 2 to 4 articles a month and having all the components that you talked about. So it's always difficult when people hear this, but they don't apply the same principles to the content they're creating. And they say, well, if Mike did 2 to 4 articles a month, I can do more than that, so I'll have double the results he had.
Yeah. Yeah, and keep in mind, I mean, we started this whole endeavor before AI was out, right? And so, that's another whole podcast for another day of like how that's going to change everything. In this particular space, I don't think it's that disruptive yet, because AI can't really write good articles about how to do all this stuff. It doesn't know enough yet. But the writing's on the wall. It's clearly going to get there. This site's lucky it has some distance. Our ecom site, ecom crew, probably a little less defensible. Like you can quickly generate this content. So, I don't know how that's going to change the landscape. It's certainly going to change it. I was talking to Spencer at length recently when I just saw him again, and we just don't know yet, right? It's hard to tell the future, but it's clear that this is highly disruptive. And if we were to have this conversation 5 years from now, we're going to laugh at like how stupid we were at and how little it might change, because we might think it's only going to change this much, but it's probably going to change 10x that.
We have a weekly podcast that we do every Friday, which is the news. And most of the news is AI related these days.
Yeah.
And it does. I mean, we've only been doing this Friday news episode for a couple of months now, maybe 4 or 5 months at the time of recording. And I mean, it feels like if I even go back and look at what we talked about 4 months ago, it's just changed so dramatically in terms of what's coming out and what's coming down the pipe.
It's pretty crazy. And we do utilize AI a lot in our business these days, but we still haven't taken the jump yet of having AI write our articles. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm stuck in the past a little bit, but also I think it can't quite write to the level of what I'm talking about, right? I think because our standard's so high, it's not quite to that level yet. And I keep on using the word yet because, it's kind of like watching my Tesla go through the phases of the full self-driving beta. It's like the first version, I couldn't go more than a quarter mile without grabbing the wheel in fear. And now it's like almost flawless. It's pretty wild. The car just like drives itself. And the only time I grab the wheel is like when someone else is doing something stupid that it can't anticipate. But, I can see the guy in my rearview mirror going 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, about ready to like cut me off, and it can't do that. But otherwise it's pretty wild. So, I think AI is going to be on that same trajectory.
Last question, take it from a high level, but just you teased it. I know people would be interested to hear it because it's intriguing. How are you using AI? What areas are you guys already utilizing that in your business?
Yeah, I think it does amazing at short form content. So email is a great example, right? Like we write newsletters that go out basically weekly, or in some cases more frequently, depending on the site. It does a great job of writing that. Any type of thing to do with social media. I did the demo at the conference that Spencer and I were just at. You can have, for instance, I think the thing specifically I demoed was write me 10 motivational quotes. And then, this was basically like demoing a site, let's just say that was like a motivational brand. Write me 10 motivational quotes. So it spits that out, all short form, 1-sentence content. Does a great job with that. Then you import those into Canva, like take those quotes and like throw them in a social media format. 1 click, done. So it does amazing stuff with that. Generating backgrounds for photography for e-commerce is like the thing that I'm really hung up on right now, because it's not quite there yet, but it does work in certain aspects. But I believe pretty clearly at this point that by the end of this year, this will be perfected, because it's just that close. And so this will cut down our times of shooting and developing products, shooting photography and developing products to a fraction of what they were. I demoed, there was a guy that was nice enough that I had asked in advance for people to give me their products to demo for certain aspects on stage. And this guy had a a cleaning product that was in like a squirt bottle, and his listing images were pretty poor. And I was like, well, let me show you something really cool. And so you like have Midjourney create an image of a modern kitchen with like sun coming through the window and like whatever. You write this like really nice description. There's that image, and you can use another tool that like takes the product and just puts it right on the counter, right? And you're just like, holy crap! It looks like that image was just taken by a professional photographer and cost you $1,000 to have made. And I just did it in 10 seconds on stage. So I think those types of things are going to do incredibly well. We're looking at making a business that sells some artwork in the future. Here's one of the things I'm thinking about, and I'm already like drooling at the opportunity of like having that artwork on 20 different walls, in different rooms, all AI generated, that look completely real. So instead of having to go rent a studio to do that or set up a studio permanently someplace to like do all that work and have a whole team to do that, AI, boom. I found that like having it create, again, short form content. So you think about the Amazon listing or your product listing on your Shopify store does a great job with that, because those are 1 or 2 sentences at a time, and it's color that it adds and the adjectives and just the way that it writes stuff makes me want to buy the product. You're just like, holy crap, like did somebody on Madison Avenue just like write that? Like, I mean, it's that good. It really is just incredible. And you can give it some parameters of like, also include these keywords when you write it, because like, you're doing the keyword research or whatever. The other thing that we're using it for Ecom Crew, when we write these articles, we want to also, we're working on growing our YouTube channel. And one of the big hangups of us being more prolific on YouTube has been getting the scripts written. Because like, I just want to sit down with a teleprompter and the script already done. I don't want to have to do that work because I got too much time, to do. I just want to like, boom, I sit down, read the script. It takes somebody a long time to write that script for us right now, or it did until the AI stuff came out. And so, because it's like, it's got to be formatted in a special way for a teleprompter. It has to read a lot differently than a blog article does, right? Like I was talking about how a blog article kind of has this cadence and heading, paragraph, like you don't want to read a YouTube script that way, but you can now give ChatGPT the link to that article and say, turn this into a YouTube script. And we have kind of massaged the prompt a little bit to get it. I also say, like, and format it for a teleprompter and write it in, I forgot what tone voice I mentioned, but like, you can do it and boom, it just like generates the script and it's like 90% done. You still got to go through and someone proofreads it and fixes a couple things here and there. But that's another thing that we've done that's just really cut down on time. And that's, in terms of like the things that we're doing right now, those are probably and that's actually quite a bit now I think about it. Those are the things that we're doing right now today in our business every day, pretty much. There are some things that I see coming that I'm also pretty excited about. There are a lot of things coming that I am intensely worried about. And probably the biggest thing there is that, I look at an Amazon business or a Shopify business and our competition, and the competition on Amazon is almost primarily foreign sellers, right? I mean, that's what I look at as who I'm competing against. Like the foreign sellers have already such a huge advantage. They're paying less taxes. They don't have to worry about insurance. They don't have to worry about getting sued. They get their Amazon account shut down. They just make another one. Their margins are better. Their cost of living is lower. They already have all of these advantages. But my advantage has been, well, I can take better photography. I know these products better. I can write better listing copy. And I see that gap closing quickly. And so it's now like, and it's one of the reasons why we've been divesting a little bit right now, just because we've spent so much of our lives in the last 8 years, like building these businesses to be worth a life-changing amount of money. It seems foolish to me at this moment to like, make another bet or double down. It's like I live in Las Vegas. Everything's a bet. So, it just, I am a little bit worried about what's to come there. Not from I am also worried about what could happen to the world. That's another whole story. But one of the books on my bookshelf back here is Who Moved My Cheese, right? And some people, really are resistant to change. Like I'm not. Like I've always let change be the thing that that drives everything and helps my success. I'm an early adopter. But, with that said, I gotta like not be the guy that's just gonna be like, it's not fair, that like, because it sucks. Like this stuff does suck. And you get older, it's harder to continue to reinvent yourself and not feel that way. But, there's a lot of people that are going to be coming for our lunch that are going to be able to do it way easier and faster than us.
As a ex-professional photographer for over a decade, I hear you loud and clear. I remember when I walked into Costco, this is a decade ago, but I walked into Costco and I saw a camera that was being sold to a consumer for under $1,000 that was actually taking better pictures at the time than the camera I was using professionally. And I thought, yikes.
Yeah.
Where is this going?
Yeah. And here we are. Because
here we are. You just told a story about Midjourney.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that Midjourney stuff is absolutely wild. I'm getting close to 50. I've always been a tech guy, right? I mean, like I can remember being a young child, sub 10, sub 8, whatever, like working with computers. I mean, I don't remember exactly what age I was, but I mean, I had an 8088 and I had every computer in between, the 286, 386, 486, and I built those things. And I was like, I knew every DOS command. Like I was a nerd and I was like really into computers. And so like all along the way, like I've seen this technology like over my lifetime. I remember the first sound card that I got and it was like playing like MIDI files and you're like, holy crap. And like, I remember this like one program that I had, I forgot what it was even, but like it was, back in the old DOS days, I think, that did some like rendering and it would take like 3 days for it to do it. And it would just kind of like render a landscape or something. And then, all the way to today where like you type in anything that you're thinking without any training of any kind in the Midjourney and bam, there it is. And if you have a little bit of training and you're willing to give, to tweak it a little bit, the results are unfreaking believable. Like it's still hard for me to get my mind around that. Like computer just spit that out. Like I still am in this, it's a very similar feeling to like when I was touching an iPhone for the first time. You're like, I cannot believe that I just went from a flip phone to like having internet in my pocket and email in my pocket. And at the time it felt like really great. I didn't anticipate all the awful things that would happen in society with having all that close, including to me, where like you can't even get through a meal without looking at your phone anymore because we're all addicted. But yeah, I mean, Midjourney is like a holy crap moment. And, the thing to remember about all this stuff is it will never be worse than it is today. Right? I mean, it's just like...
I was going to say, by the time this podcast comes out, who knows, right? We're dealing with being at a point where even some of the times, when we talk about this on an interview, it could change and improve. And a lot of what we talk about, could change even by the time this comes out. So it's absolutely insane.
It is. I mean, it starts to make me feel irrelevant, but that's another conversation, another day.
I'm right there with you. Talking about the change conversation, I'm right there with you. Hey, Mike, this has just been amazing. Congratulations on this 2.5 to 3 year journey that you went on with this purchase and then subsequent sale. And if anybody else wants to follow along or get more information about you and what you're doing, like where can people go to learn more about you and what you have?
Yeah, I mean, we document everything over at Ecom Crew, so EComCrew, all one word. And it's ecomcrew.com, Ecom Crew on the podcast, Ecom Crew on all the socials, support at ecomcrew.com if you want to email. But we've been at this for a while, 520 something episodes as recording this. It's kind of crazy that we've been at it this long. Wow. But the unique thing is we're usually, with the exception for this one brand that I never mentioned the name of, our real differentiator has always been that we're talking about the exact brands and products that we have. And as close as I can with this one brand, it's we're a little bit vague, unfortunately. But and it's also, I think the other thing that we do that's unique is we also talk about the failures, because there's everybody loves to come on a podcast and talk about how successful they are, but oftentimes in business there's a lot of failures, and so this motivates me to not fail by having to because it sucks turning on the microphone saying I did this thing and it sucked, but we do that too, because it's not always up and to the right.
Well, Mike, thank you so much. That hour flew by, and hey, I hope you feel better. I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, sorry for the call. So maybe your guy will edit that out. But
yeah, we'll see if we can get. If you're listening and you don't hear the somewhat sudden cough attack, we figured out a way to get it. I don't know, maybe we'll leave it in though, because it kind of adds.
It's real.
It's real.
It's real.
Sometimes you got to do this stuff when you're not feeling great. Both you and I feel like pulled it off without totally destroying people's eardrums here. So
Hopefully,
well done.
hopefully.
Thank you again for
Thanks,
coming,
buddy.
and really appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Today's episode is sponsored by Search Intelligence. Here's a short clip of Ferry from Search Intelligence showing you how their agency built digital PR links to a client's website.
In this video, I will show you how we landed a placement on BBC and dozens of links in massive regional online publications such as Wales Online, Daily Post, and many more. This PR campaign was about the easiest place to pass your driving test for the first time in the UK. This is how we've done it. We simply went to DVLA website, found the latest car driving test data by test center, and downloaded the data in a CSV format. Once we had the data, all we had to do is to look at the number of total tests per test center, then look at the number of first time passes to calculate the percentage of people who passed their test for the first time. Once we had the percentage numbers, we created a press release with our findings. Then we went to Roxhill and found journalists who talk about driving tests, and also looked for journalists who write in regional publications in the UK. In total, we have found about 1,800 journalists and sent them our press release by email. Within less than a day, our story got picked up by BBC, Cornwall Live, Wales Online, and dozens of other publications in the UK, providing our client a tsunami of backlinks perfectly relevant to the audience of the client, who is a specialist in learner driver car insurance. I hope this video is helpful and it shows you how you can also build links with freely available data from official sources.
Thanks for joining us today on the podcast. Just a final reminder that it was brought to you by Search Intelligence. And if you're looking for link building PR campaigns for your website, just head over to search-intelligence.co.uk and get in touch with them today. Cheers.